What's up, memory makers? Welcome back to Playable Memory. So, there's this new game that got announced. And I'll be honest, when I first saw the trailer, I thought, great, another Soulslike trying to ride the FromSoftware wave. But then I dug deeper into Loulan, the Cursed Sands, and I realized this might be exactly what the action RPG genre has been missing. Picture this. A team of veteran developers who worked on God of War and FromSoftware titles deciding to completely flip the script. Instead of making another punishing, methodical combat experience, they're asking, what if we brought back that classic arcade power fantasy, but with modern game design? And the result? Well, it looks pretty incredible. Let's talk about why this game has industry veterans so excited. The team at Chili Room isn't your typical indie studio throwing together their first project. We're looking at developers who've been in the trenches of some of gaming's biggest franchises. The director himself worked directly on both God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok at Santa Monica Studio. But it doesn't stop there. This team includes former FromSoftware employees and even some Platinum Games alumni. Now, here's what's fascinating about this particular group of developers. They're all self-described veteran gamers born in the 80s and 90s, which means they grew up during the golden age of arcade action games. They experienced firsthand that era when games like the original God of War trilogy, Devil May Cry, and classic beat-em-ups dominated the scene. These weren't games designed to punish you. They were designed to make you feel like an absolute powerhouse. The director specifically mentioned being inspired by arcade action games and classic God of War, and you can see that philosophy bleeding through in everything they're showing us. This isn't a team trying to chase current trends. They're trying to recapture something we've lost in modern game design. And honestly, I think that perspective might be exactly what we need right now. So what exactly is Loulan, the Cursed Sands? Let me paint you a picture that I think will get you as excited as I am about this project. Imagine if the original God of War's power fantasy met the visual storytelling of Journey, then got wrapped in one of the most underexplored historical settings in gaming. That's what we're dealing with here. The game takes place along the ancient Silk Road in western China, specifically in and around the lost kingdom of Loulan. Now, the Silk Road wasn't just a trade route. It was this incredible melting pot of cultures, religions, and civilizations spanning thousands of miles. You had merchants from Rome trading with Chinese emperors, Buddhist monks spreading philosophy alongside Persian mystics, and these incredible oasis cities that served as cultural crossroads. It's a setting that's criminally underused in gaming, and the potential for variety in environments, enemies, and storytelling is absolutely massive. The protagonist you'll be playing as is called the Cursed Sand, and this is where the game's central concept gets really interesting. He's a former royal guard who was resurrected after death. But here's the twist. His resurrection is tied directly to the desert itself. The same sands that preserved those ancient mummies we find in archaeological digs have given him a kind of cursed immortality. Let's dive deep into what makes this character so mechanically interesting, because this is where Loulan really starts to differentiate itself from everything else on the market. The Cursed Sand operates on this dual-form system that's built around sand manipulation. In his default state, he's what they call the Golden Sand form, essentially a balanced fighter where his body is wrapped and reinforced by swirling sand particles. Think of it like magical armor that's constantly shifting and adapting. In this form, he can perform standard combos, use sand-based abilities, and maintain good mobility. But when things get serious, he can shift into what they call bone form. In this state, he literally unleashes the sand from his body to forge massive weapons. Primarily this enormous sand blade that looks like it could cleave through buildings. This form is specifically designed for one versus many combat scenarios, where you're dealing with large groups of enemies or massive bosses. Now here's where the gameplay philosophy really shines through. While you can see clear influences from modern action RPGs, there's dodging, there's parrying, there are big boss encounters with attack patterns to learn. The developers are adamant that this isn't a Soulslike, and thank God for that, honestly. Instead of that methodical, deliberate combat where every mistake means death, Loulan is going for something much more fluid and empowering. We're talking about long, flowing combo chains that let you transition seamlessly between forms. The combat looks fast-paced, with an emphasis on maintaining momentum rather than careful positioning and timing. The sand mechanics extend beyond just the dual forms, too. From what we can see in the trailer, the protagonist can shape his weapons mid-combat, create defensive barriers, launch projectile attacks, and even use the sand for environmental traversal. It's giving me serious Prince of Persia vibes, mixed with that God of War power fantasy. From a visual standpoint, Loulan is doing something really interesting with its camera perspective and art direction that I think deserves more attention. They're using what they call a retro top-down camera perspective, but it's not your typical isometric view. It's this dynamic camera that can pull back for epic landscape shots, zoom in for intimate character moments, and adjust its angle to emphasize the scale of boss fights. It reminds me a lot of the camera work in the 2018 God of War, where the camera itself becomes a storytelling tool. The environments we see in the trailer are absolutely gorgeous. The art style strikes this perfect balance between realistic environmental design and fantastical elements. One thing that really caught my eye is how they're using lighting and particle effects. The sand isn't just a gameplay mechanic, it's a visual storytelling element. When the protagonist uses his abilities, you see these beautiful golden particle effects that feel both magical and grounded in the desert setting. The lighting changes based on time of day and weather conditions, which suggests they're really thinking about atmosphere and mood. The character design is also worth noting. The cursed sand himself has this incredible visual design where you can see the transition between his human form and his skeletal cursed state. In the golden sand form, he looks almost regal, like a warrior king wrapped in flowing desert winds. In bone form, he becomes this intimidating skeletal figure that feels genuinely menacing. Let's talk about what I think is the most important aspect of Loulan: its approach to combat design and what that means for the action RPG genre as a whole. The team at Chili Room has identified something that I think a lot of us have been feeling, but maybe couldn't articulate. There's been this shift in action RPGs toward making everything a test of player skill and patience. Don't get me wrong, I love Souls-like games and they have their place. But there's also something to be said for games that just let you feel powerful and have fun. Loulan is specifically targeting what they call arcade-style combat. And what that means is prioritizing player empowerment over player challenge. Instead of every enemy encounter being a careful dance of timing and positioning, you're encouraged to go in, use your full arsenal of abilities, and feel like a force of nature. That doesn't mean the game will be easy or mindless. From what we can see, there are still complex enemy patterns to learn, environmental hazards to navigate, and strategic decisions to make about when to use which form or ability. But the underlying philosophy is, how can we make the player feel awesome, rather than, how can we test the player's dedication? I think this approach could be exactly what the genre needs right now. So that's my deep dive into Loulan, the Cursed Sands. And honestly, I'm more excited about this game than I've been about an action RPG in quite a while. What really gets me hyped is the philosophy behind it. This is a team saying, we know how to make challenging, methodical games, But what if we made something that just feels good to play instead? In an era where every action game seems to be competing for who can be the most punishing, there's something refreshing about developers who just want to make players feel powerful. The sand mechanics look genuinely innovative. The historical setting is criminally underused in gaming, and the talent behind it has proven they know how to make great action games. If they can deliver on what they're showing in this trailer, Loulan could be exactly what the action RPG genre needs to break out of its current patterns. What do you think? Are you excited for a return to arcade-style action RPG design? Or do you prefer the more methodical, challenging approach we've been seeing lately? Have you been feeling that Souls-like fatigue I mentioned? Or are you still hungry for more challenging experiences? And what do you think about that historical setting? Is the Silk Road something you'd like to see more games explore? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want to see more analysis of upcoming games that are doing something different, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any new videos. Thanks for watching Playable Memory, and I'll catch you in the next one. Playable Memory.